All right, what is going on? What is going on? What is going on? We are going to get into the podcast very, very shortly. And today we're talking about a mindset shift for training. And this one, the reason that I'm bringing this to you guys is because honestly, plain and simple, it's just necessary. Like, there's so much shit that I see out there that just makes no fucking sense whatsoever. So, to get into this stuff, to talk about the mindset for training, we're going to be talking about the shifts you need to make in order to get more out of your training, in order to see more success in your sport, and ultimately in order to become the athlete that you are actually looking to become. I saw one comment come in asking Devin or Ryan Garcia, and I think Devin takes that one. Ryan Garcia has been talking about Sean O'Malley in the UFC, which just seems super crazy to me. Because I mean, well, plain and simple, can we all finally put an end to the whole like MMA fighters going to box and boxers going to MMA? Like, if you're going to MMA, the MMA fighter's going to win. If you're going to boxing, boxer's going to win. Like 99 times out of 100. So I feel like Ryan Garcia is a little too sidetracked. I feel like Devin Haney takes it. I could be wrong, but that's just one man's opinion. Somebody else asked if 14 years old is too late to start boxing. Absolutely fucking not. Start now and go all in if that's what you want to do. But guys, we're talking about a mindset shift for training, and stick around because we can do a few minutes of Q&A at the end, but we're going to get into it. We're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the number one show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I am your host, Kenny Dussault, and today we are going to talk about a mindset shift you need for training. Now, the mindset shift you need for training, plain and simple, guys, the reason I'm bringing this to you is because it is something that is massively, massively, massively necessary in this world. See, I heard a quote yesterday, actually. The guy I run my gym with, Kyle, if you're listening to this, appreciate you. The guy I run my gym with sent me a post, and it said, "Any idiot can make any other idiot tired." And guys, it's true. Making a hard workout is not a difficult thing to do. Pick 5 exercises, do 100 of each one. It's going to fucking suck. But the fact that it sucks doesn't mean it's useful. I'm going to say that one more time. The fact that a workout sucks or that a workout is very hard does not mean it's useful. So you've got to shift out of this mindset that the only way to train is to just beat your body into the ground 24 hours a day. You've got to understand what the true goal of training is. And I asked a couple of my athletes this question, and it was shocking to me that a couple of them didn't get the answer, but I realized how many more people out there don't know the answer to this question. Guys, why do you train? Why do you train? When you go to training, what is the number one purpose? And there is only one right answer. If you are an athlete and you're listening to this, there is one purpose for your training. What is it? Drop comments if you're here live. I'm curious to hear what some people think. And the reason that we're talking about this today is because a lot of people don't have the correct answer. So I'd love to see what some people that are here live think. But if you are listening to the show on the replay, whatever it might be, start thinking about what your answer is. I hear growth. I hear get better. I hear destroy your enemy. That one made me laugh. That's good. I hear get better, progress, become the best. So guys, the number one reason that you are training is to win when you compete. If you are an athlete training to compete in a sport, the number one reason that you are training is to win consistently when you compete, to better prepare for competition. Now, the reason that this is such an important distinction to make is because so many athletes get so caught up in training a certain number of hours, or they get so caught up in running a certain amount of miles per week, or they get so caught up in hitting a certain number of sessions per week, or they get so caught up in trying to do more than their opponent, or all of these other little things that, guys, ultimately do not fucking matter. The answer to who wins the competition is not the person who puts in the most hours. It is the person who is the best prepared. Now, is putting in a lot of hours going to help prepare you for sport? Of course. But it depends on what you're doing in those hours, right? It's not just about more hours, more hours, more hours. It's about doing the right things within those hours to get a better result in less time. Now, the other piece of that puzzle is recovery. I have a lot of athletes tell me goofy things like, I don't take recovery days because if I'm resting and my opponent's working, that means that my opponent's getting better than me. Guys, let's put this bullshit to bed once and for all. Recovery is an important part of your training week. So the analogy I always like to use, and if you've been following me for a while, you've probably heard me use it at least 3 or 4 times, is a recovery day in your training week is like stopping at the gas station on a road trip. In the time that you are stopped at the gas station, you're thinking, okay, I'm not on the road, so I'm not getting any further. But if you don't stop at the gas station, what happens? The car runs out of gas somewhere in the middle of the highway somewhere, and now you got to walk all the way back to the gas station to get a fucking jerry can and walk all the way back to your car. And now you've set yourself back way more because you didn't just stop and get some fucking gas, right? And this is what you're doing to yourself when you avoid your recovery days. This is what you're doing to yourself when you avoid your recovery days. You're avoiding stopping at the gas station. You're avoiding refueling the machine. And as a result, your body starts to break down. Now, this happens in the form of those nagging injuries that you feel that just don't go away. What happens when your shoulders are achy, your knees are achy, your body doesn't feel good all the time? You're not training as effectively. You might be going into the gym, you might be putting in the work, but if your body's not functioning at a high enough level, you're not getting as much as you can out of those sessions. So as a result, now, because you didn't want to take one day off, every fucking one of your sessions the following week is going to suffer. Every single one. Just because you didn't want to take a day off. So now you're getting subpar training in. So in your mind, you're going, oh, look at me. I'm fucking grinding. Nobody works harder than me. But every hour that you're putting in when you're not letting yourself recover properly is a subpar hour. That means you have to do all this many extra hours to get the result that somebody else is getting in 3/4 of the time because they're actually taking care of their fucking body. You get what I mean? Like when I break it down like that, does that hit a little harder? Does that make sense as to why this is so important? But again, we're coming back to the topic of this podcast, which is a mindset shift you need for training to understand why you're training. And if the reason that you're training is to succeed when you compete, to be better prepared for competition, don't you think that the quality of the training hours that you're putting in is going to be an important piece of that puzzle? Right? Don't you think the quality of the training hours you're putting in is going to be an important piece of that puzzle? So if you are giving yourself that recovery day, stopping at the gas station, fueling up, and then getting back on the road, now every single one of your sessions the next week, is going to be elevated. You're going to get way more out of every hour. And because you're getting way more out of every hour, you're getting better results. See, people get too obsessed with the hours in the gym. But if the hours in the gym are dog shit because you're just kind of walking around doing some random shit because you don't know what to do because you've been there for 7 hours that day, you're not getting better just because you were there. Right? You're not getting better just because you were there. It comes down to the quality. Now, I saw somebody say no rest days because you will get mentally tougher, and I sincerely hope you're joking. So I'm not even going to dig into that comment because that's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. You need rest days. Plain and simple, because you can be as mentally tough as you want. But if your body is constantly breaking down, then plain and simple, you're not going to be able to just mentally tough it out through all of your fights. And I'm hearing him say that's a joke. I'm glad. The reason that I wasn't sure is because I do hear people that honestly think that way. So good. I'm glad you're joking. All right. But getting back to it, guys, I hope that makes a lot of sense. And then I want to tie that back into as well the actual sessions themselves. So one comment that I get from athletes when I start working with them quite often is that the training we're doing isn't as hard as they expect. And I'm going to break down why. So the important thing that we need to address here is the function of strength and conditioning work. See, a lot of people think strength and conditioning and they think military boot camp, crazy hard workouts. If you're not puking, you're not working hard enough kind of mentality, right? And if that is what your strength and conditioning is, you have a shit strength and conditioning coach. I'm going to say that one more time. If you're doing military boot camp circuits that are just designed to make you throw up, and the harder you work, the better, and the only thing is how much can you push before you die, you have a shitty strength and conditioning coach. And the reason that is because the goal of strength and conditioning is to help an athlete better be able to match the energy demands of their sport. That's it. I'm going to say that one more time. The goal of strength and conditioning is to help an athlete be better able to match the energy demands of their sport. So if your goal is to be a stronger, faster, more explosive, better conditioned athlete when you compete, which I'd be pretty confident to say that would be everybody's goal. If that is your goal, then your training needs to be working on building strength, building power, building speed, and building conditioning that's actually going to translate into the sport itself. Now, if you're just running yourself ragged, dead tired, exhausted all the time, crushing your body, trying to do extra sets of everything to show how tough you are, you're not building strength. You're just beating the fuck out of your body. You're not building power. You're just getting through a workout. You get what I mean? So instead, you've got to reframe the goal of those strength and conditioning sessions. You've got to understand that the goal is not how hard can I work? The goal is improving my strength in a way that's going to actually translate to the sport. So my rule of thumb for this, and this is going to surprise some people, hopefully not if you've been following me for a while, but my rule of thumb for strength and conditioning work is that you should never be too sore from your strength and conditioning work to do your skill sessions either later that day or the next day. And the reason for that is because our goal, like we talked about earlier in the podcast, our goal of training is to win when you compete. And if you're doing so much strength and conditioning work that you're never able to properly hit your skills training because you're so exhausted and beat down all the time, then you're not hitting your skills training. And as a result, you're probably not going to win when you compete. And then the next thing, if you take that out because you're like, oh, strength and conditioning makes me too sore to hit all my skills training, now your body's getting weaker, your conditioning is getting worse, your power is going to decrease. And as a result, you're going to get thrown around by bigger, stronger opponents, even the ones in your weight class. So the goal is balance. The goal is not to push yourself to the brink with every single session. The goal is to build the physical qualities that you need in order to succeed in the sport. So building strength, building power, building speed, improving conditioning that actually allows you to succeed more effectively in the sport. So that's the one that I want to touch on before we wrap up the podcast is the conditioning. Because a lot of the time athletes will see conditioning sessions with me and they'll be like, oh, we're only working for 90 seconds at a time. That doesn't feel like enough. And number one, if you push at the highest possible pace that you can and maintain it for 90 seconds, that is fucking hard. And if it's not fucking hard, you're not pushing hard enough within that 90 seconds. And number two, the goal of that 90-second effort is not to brutalize your body. The goal of that 90-second effort is to improve your ability to maintain a higher pace for a steady duration of time. You get what I mean? So it's not all about making it the absolute hardest it can be. And then what I'll have athletes do, they'll do that first day where it's, 90 seconds of work, a minute of rest as an example for 4 or 5 rounds. They'll do that first day and they'll be like, oh, well, I cut the minute of rest down to 30 seconds because it didn't feel like it was hard enough. I'm like, motherfucker, like the goal of that session is to be able to maintain a higher possible pace that you can for 90 seconds. And if you're not letting yourself rest, what does that do? That makes the pace that you can keep in your next set lower. And then as a result, we're lacking quality of the session because you were just trying to make it harder. So it's not just about how hard can it be. It's about the quality of the work being put in. Now, listen, I get it. When you're seeing that session immediately, when you don't know what you're like, why we're doing what we're doing, or you didn't read the instructions that I put into every single session, athletes out there, I see you. When you read that and you feel like, okay, this isn't enough, mentally, you're going to be like, I want to make this harder, so I'm going to cut my rest time. But that's where this reframe comes in. And that is the mindset shift that we're talking about from the start of this episode. Don't just think, how do I make my training harder? Understand the purpose behind the things you're doing. I'm going to say that one more time. Don't just focus on making your training harder. Understand the purpose of the things that you are doing within it. And if you can reframe that, now you can get way better results way fucking faster. And the reason that you're going to be able to get way better results way faster is because, plain and simple, the things you're doing are actually going to be guided in the right direction. You're not just doing random hard shit for the sake of random hard shit. And when you actually have insight as to why you're doing the things you're doing, and you actually understand the purpose of the work that you're doing, then what starts to happen is you start to also get better results in less time, which allows you more time to recover. And if your body's able to recover, you stay fueled at a higher level. And if you're fueled at a higher level and the sessions that you're doing make more sense and are actually guided towards your goal, and then you have more time to recover, and we repeat that cycle, what happens? You get way, 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 way better results. Your body stays healthy. And in turn, you put yourself in the best possible position to succeed every time you compete. Because you're not grinding your body into the ground, injuring 3 or 4 different things, and then coming into the competition, nursing 4 injuries, trying to make it through. You're coming into the competition healthy, strong, fast, powerful, ready to actually go the whole 15 to 25 minutes if that's what you need to do. So guys, that is the mindset shift. I hope you got some value out of that. If you did, I would absolutely love to know what it is. Make sure to drop me a message on any of my social media platforms. The ways on which you can do that will be linked in the show notes below. As always, I appreciate you all for taking the time to tune in. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you on the next episode.